Welcome, everybody. My name is Craig Monroe. I'm the founder and editor of Elegant Literature. I am joined today by our most recent award-winning author, Kelli Johnson. Kelli, congratulations. You won the Elegant Literature Award for New Writers. How are you feeling right now?
Amazing. Yeah. A week ago, I literally danced when I saw that I won. I got up with my partner and we did like a celebration dance in the living room. So I'm really honored. Thanks.
Fantastic. Kelli won that award with her story, These Hearts of Mine. Absolutely fantastic. Melanie was the one responsible for the final decision. Melanie Spencer, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being part of this contest. It's great to have you here.
It was an absolute pleasure, and all of the entries were amazing, but Kelly's was really stood out to me as something special.
Absolutely. Um, so, for anybody watching this, if you want to read Kelli's story, These Hearts of Mine, it is free to read in issue 54 of Elegant Literature. The issue theme was Beneath the Words. That was chosen by Melanie as well. Melanie, can you just take a quick second here and tell us a little bit about yourself and also why Beneath the Words? What did it mean to you and why did you suggest that to me?
Okay, so I'm a writing coach based in London, and I work with writers and artists really who are doing all kinds of things. But by trade, when I'm not coaching, I am a script writer. And so what I really value about writing is really dialogue, subtext, the conversation beneath the conversation. And so I wanted to offer a prompt that sort of spoke to my taste. So I was very selfish, really. But it's really about someone who could get into the kind of context, the sub context, and deliver that in a meaningful way in a world that we could access that felt propulsive and interesting. And Kelly, I think you did all of that. And I have to say, I'm not a huge sci-fi, and you got me. You got me, girl. It was great. So yeah, congratulations again.
Thanks. Yeah. That made me laugh when I saw the first thing in the judges' comments was, I don't really like sci-fi.
I mean, I had to be honest, didn't I? I had to be honest, but I do. I suppose I'm picky, and the same with fantasy sometimes. But you really, really nailed it for me. It's a fantastic piece of writing, and I urge everyone to go and read it.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, there was a lot of grounding in human emotion as a backdrop. Or sorry, the science fiction like element of it was almost a backdrop to a lot of the human stuff. I have so many notes about just that. Um, so yes, thank you very much, Melanie, for choosing that theme. It was fantastic to read all of the stories. Beyond Kelli's story in the magazine, there are nine others around that theme, all wildly different in their content, all absolutely worth a read, all by upcoming the new generation of writers. So go check that out and the previous 53 issues, which are also free to read. So, Kelli, very excited to dig into the story. We've got some questions about the story. Want to talk to you and hear about your history with writing, where you're going next, and just kind of find out all about it. Very excited. Um, can we start? You mentioned it very briefly. Can you tell me the emotions and thoughts going on in your head when you saw a contest winner beneath your name in the magazine? Like, where were you? What did you do? How did you feel?
Yeah, so I was on the couch in the living room with my laptop on my lap with a blanket all wrapped up. And it was 9 o'clock on the dot. It was in a Discord with my writing group too. Other people were waiting for the results, so that was fun. And I downloaded the magazine and I saw the table of contents and I was in there. So I thought, cool, I made it into the magazine. And it's like the second one in the list. So I scrolled down quickly and I saw contest winner and I went, "Rah!" Like I yelped. And like I said, me and my partner, we just danced around in celebration. Yeah. And I called my mom after that, and she was jazzed. She's like my one true beta reader, the most loyal one. So she was all like, "Now you're officially a writer." Oh,
Yeah,
it
not
was a good
only
day.
officially a writer, officially an award-winning writer. So
Mm.
Yeah, crazy stuff.
that to add. Fantastic. So this was your first publication with Elegant Literature, your first publication, you ended up winning the award. Is this your first publication overall, your first paid one? Have you been published other places? Tell us a little bit about your history.
This is the first real one I'm gonna put in like a bio, you know. I've had a little success with Globe Soup. Like I've won prizes from their monthly micro like 3 times now. Actually. The day, May 1st, when I learned that I won this, was an excellent day in my writing life because 24 hours beforehand, I had saw that I got an honorable mention in Writer's Playground for the first time ever. Cool. And then 12 hours later at 9 a.m., I saw I got third place with Globe Soup. Oh, even better. And then this was like the pinnacle. So May 1st was a great day. I'm going to celebrate it every year.
I like that.
But yeah, beyond this, like I enter lots of contests. Like I do writing battle every single time. I do NYC Midnight, and I've gotten to the final once, but I've never truly won something that was a big deal.
Well, congratulations. And also, thank you for saying we're a big deal. That means a lot to
Oh
me.
yeah.
Okay, so I know Melanie's the one who officially picked the story, although it had my vote for sure. Melanie's got some questions that she wants to ask you. So, Melanie, I'm going to hand the lead over this to you. I'm still going to be here. I will not be able to help myself from chiming in, but I will try and contain my excitement and be patient. So, Melanie, feel free to take it away.
Okay, so I'd love for you to tell us about not your process, but more where you start when you're writing a story. Are you character-led or world-led? Dive into that a little bit.
Hmm. Oh, so the writing process, like I start with prompts, right? And pen and paper, and I'll just kind of list everything on different corners of the page and see how I can connect them in just random, surprising ways, like every which way possible. Lots of Googling involved. And then I move to like Scrivener, and I put all those notes. I like the panels side by side. And once I have like 90% of the story, I'll move everything to Word and like change the font to surprise my eyes. And yeah, these days I try to have like the opening image and the ending all planned out when I start. And with this story, there was a twist, and the twist kind of needs to be the first thing that you have because you got to build the whole story. You got to work backwards and figure out how can I like surprise them with the twist, but also seed it in the very beginning of the story.
So that's interesting. So you're saying you start with the twist, right? So
Hmm.
tell me a little bit more about like we want to peek into your brain, right? We want to see how did you dream this up. So if you're that's really interesting to say you start with the twist rather than the character or the world. So when you see the twist, like how did that first grain of it come to you?
Okay. Well, this story started out as a writing battle entry at 1,000 words. So I had the prompt, the genre biopunk, and I
Mm,
immediately latched on to this idea of like organ harvesting, cloning, things like that. Like the story Never Let Me Go. It's about,
yes.
people being grown just so future clones can harvest their organs, But I didn't want to do that. So I tried to think of ways to subvert the clone people for organ harvesting trope, I guess. Um, and I don't know, I remember I was on a park in a bench when I had this idea for the story. Like, wait, what if she is conned? What if it's all a con? The technology actually doesn't exist, but um, maybe she's a desperate person. So that's where the character came from. Once I had the twist of someone being conned out of their body, out of their organs, their life, then I thought, okay, so who is that character who gets conned? It's someone who's desperate, who's poor and oppressed. And so that's where the character came from, someone who's living in this future society where child labor and indentured servitude has come back in full swing, a society of where the super rich are super powerful and
Mm.
manipulative. Yeah. So that's my process. I kind of make my way back to the character.
I can see where you've drawn some inspiration, right? From
Yeah.
maybe that
From
far
our
away.
world that we live in. Like it has
That's
to, with
one.
sci-fi
That's
especially, it has to start with reality. It has to
Yeah,
be plausible.
That's one of the
yeah.
questions I had down, talking about the thread running through of the labor erasing identity, the detergent burning their skin, and seeing the spin cycles on her eyelids when she's trying to sleep, and basically the whole body's becoming commodities thing. And was that just a fun organ harvesting science fiction plot, or was it a statement about where we're currently headed in the world? And I think we've got the answer to that.
Yeah, it was definitely flavored by my feelings over the past few months. I find that stories that come from like a really dark personal place tend to do the best for me, at least.
Well, that's what I was struck by, I suppose. Was yes, you've mentioned Never Let Me Go, but I was also thinking about another cheery organ harvesting story that I have seen, which is called Dirty Pretty Things, which is actually a film starring Audrey Tautou, who was in Amelie. And it's written by
Lovely.
a great TV writer over here called Stephen Knight. He writes everything, Peaky Blinders. Um, but similarly, what you latch onto is this desperate, poor, oppressed, person who's going to be vulnerable to this kind of situation. However, despite all of that, what drew me to your story was actually that her spirit and her sass and her sense of self and personhood, in spite of that oppression and poverty, you gave her an internal dignity and curiosity that I liked. And I suppose part of that was maybe brought out by the sexual relationship. Uh, so I wondered more about like, whether like how did you build that character and was it your intention to sort of bring that personhood into the conversation in spite of all of these sort of things stacking up against trying to erase her, right? You know? So if you could talk a
Hmm.
bit to that, please.
Sure. So, firstly, like I think my weakest point, my weakest aspect of my writing is character. And when I write, I tend to pack a ton of details and like world building into my drafts. Like looking back at the initial writing battle entry, in hindsight, I see how flawed it was. It's just information, 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 and like no taking time, no pausing to let the character reflect. So like I owe the you liking this character so much entirely to the feedback I got because I
Mm,
got so much of it about things that people said they wanted more of from the story. So basically, Nexa, the character, was very bare bones. And then I had people saying they wanted her to like think of her friend more. Like the original draft, she really didn't like think back, like how her actions are going to affect Janae, and she kind of treated Calix, the engineering guy, like as an afterthought almost. And she never really paused to like think about what are the repercussions of her choices going to be. You got this character who's in denial. That's a very internal thing, and the feedback I got from both the battle and later when I was revising this for Elegant was really valuable. Shining a light on what should be expanded, what should be slowed down, like all the internalized conversations she should be having with herself. Like I'm surprised it came out so well, but it's all down to the getting feedback,
yeah,
I'd
well,
say.
if I mean you this is a fantastic story, but putting on my little writer's coach hat and artist hat, I would say that that is maybe why I'm saying that this is something that I feel is usually missing from this genre that you have done so beautifully here, and you should latch onto that for future things because when we can connect with someone very deeply, that is what allows us to go anywhere with you. That's the thing that makes us feel like we're putting our hands to the page and touching a future or a history we've never been part of. It brings it down to earth for us, and makes us kind of connect with the realities of that person. I mean, when I was reading, I felt like your character was so, she felt in it like something, a cousin of Offred, for example, in The Handmaid's Tale. Really good job. And I think that's maybe a note that you should stick to, and maybe something you could nurture further in your writing if that's something you're saying is a weakness. But what I love is that you put that feedback in without compromising your strengths. Sometimes when I'm coaching people, I'm like, yeah, you can be this kind of writer on the world side, and you can be this kind, which is all character. And it's really about trying to bring those strengths together to this place, It's not about swapping. You said
Hmm.
like a writers group online. Like, tell us about how you fit writing into your life as well, and how much, I guess you've had this feedback. So, a lot of writers come to me because they're lonely, but it sounds like you've got a whole community going on. So maybe talk to us a little bit about that process and how you work with other people to generate this story and others.
Hmm. Well, I mean, it's wonderful being surrounded by creative language-minded people. Like I used to be an ESL teacher in China, in Guangzhou for many years, teaching adults. So
Hmm.
like I had coworkers who were grammar nerds, and I was working with students who were really into conversing about pronunciation and style and idiomatic expressions, people who were like interested in language. Um, I miss that so much teaching.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but it's really doing these contests later after I left China that gave me skill that made me a better writer. Um, I think the first one I did was like an NYC midnight, just on a whim. I got a Facebook ad and I saw the comments. I was like, oh, okay. Christmas present to myself. And I wrote the story, forgot about it for 3 months, and then in April we got the results on my birthday, and I saw that I got first place, like the first thing I ever wrote, you know. And after that, I was totally addicted, and I found my way to writing battle, and that's what opened up everything. The forums there, the beta reading, um, the collaborative aspect of it. Like collaboration just has always made the writing better. It helps me discover things in the stories that I didn't even know were there. Like it's
Yeah,
funny reading people's reactions to what you write and like, oh my God, I didn't even think about that. They think I'm so clever, but no, you know.
I think that's the
Yeah, and I
secret.
joined that writing Discord just a few months ago, just in time to help me revise this story for Elegant.
But it's that
Yeah.
it's between your unique mind, like perspective, and then receiving feedback from others, but knowing which bits are going to really turbocharge what you can do. But I think also like I can really hear that you're showing up, you're doing the reps when it comes to writing, and your attitude is just shining through about how it's about mastery. So maybe you could tell us a little bit more about generally your editing process. And sometimes I think people who are just coming to writing for the first time, they think you sit down like Shakespeare and you just write something incredible first time. And I just want everyone to know that Shakespeare actually had 20 friends who were all his besties, like on stage giving him better lines when he wrote a bad one. So actually, it's much more about you have to be that for yourself, don't you? Your own editor. So could you talk to us a little bit about the way you refine, how do you go about that really, editing?
Mhm. Part of it is like your mindset going into editing. I think it's important not to be precious about your lines, you know. Like there's always these lines, these paragraphs that they were in the first draft and you're so precious about them, you know. They were your baby. Like you spent so long like manipulating them, em dashing, condensing commas until they're just this Frankenstein thing, but you have this emotional connection, this need to keep this line, this paragraph in the story. And you have to be willing to just cut it if it doesn't work. That's
Mm.
the biggest lesson I've had to learn in writing. And it's not going to matter if you just keep the story to yourself. And you know, if you win, and then you can say, "Oh yeah, nobody laid eyes on this story throughout the whole process except me." It's not going to make it more impressive. It's just not going to work, you know. So I think the most valuable feedback that I look for isn't the line level stuff. I've always been pretty good at that. I think when I write a first draft, it's pretty polished in terms of language. Where I struggle is like the qualitative stuff, the character emotions, the internality, um, theme. I've been learning a lot about theme by doing these contests, making a theme like permeate every aspect of the story, the promise of the premise, seeding a twist or an ending in the very opening of a story so that when the reader reads it, they're like, oh, yeah, I could get that, you know, reading it back it was totally foreshadowed, something like that. So my whole editing philosophy is how can I make everything more circular? How can I make the theme pervade every word, even just like the verb choices? You know, if a verb, I just chose it because it was the first thing that landed in my mind. But how can I make it more the flavor of this story or the flavor of her emotions? Like I get really, really nitty gritty with every sentence. I
It
constantly
shows.
copy and paste it into a different program with a different font just to surprise my eyes. Like you
I
got
love
to
that.
like work around.
I'm going to steal that one. Tell us more about Surprise Your Eyes and why that works for you, because I feel it's going to work for me. I don't even know what it is yet, but I'm excited. So tell me.
It's great.
Yeah, it's like different mediums. Like I start with handwriting something and then go to Scrivener and then go to Word and then change the fonts again and again because like you just get blind to something you've written. Like you're not only just in love with it, but then your eyes will just glaze over what you've written. And so,
Mm.
but if you change the font, like some people write in Comic Sans, and I tried that for a while. I felt a little ridiculous, but it actually works. Your eyes do not want to look at Comic Sans, and so they will not be in love with what's on the screen. And that's good because you can't be in love with your lines. You have to cut things and change things if they don't serve the story.
I'm stealing that. I'm just going to say I'm
Yeah.
I'm 100% thieving that from you. That's
I
great.
stole that from someone else. So
Great. We're spreading the love. This is a fun question going on from Comic Sans. What's the worst piece of writing advice that you have ever had?
worst piece of writing.
What's the bottom of
Great.
the
That's a great
barrel
question. I'm stealing that question.
Hmm. I mean, there's the classic things like, show don't tell is a much hated. That would be the classic answer everyone would give because it's not very good advice. Storytelling is all about telling. I think it's how you tell it, and you can really overcorrect. You might just view your writing as like on a word level, like building block level, and that can be a little dangerous because then you're like, oh no, I can't use a filter word, so I have
Mm.
to sub it out. Even if that's totally natural, if it sounds good, like no, I'm breaking a writing rule. Like once you know the conventions of writing well enough and you're practiced enough with them, you should be breaking them
Yeah, because it's a
regularly.
voice. It's funny, people are always trying to remove ums and ahs, aren't they, from their speech. But the only time you really need to do that is when you don't have anything to say or you realize that you haven't formed opinions. When you have opinions, ums and ahs are part of normal
Yeah,
pattern.
especially with dialogue. Like don't edit dialogue in stories to sound like narration. That's a mistake. Oh, and the people who say no adverbs, I'm coming for them. I
Yeah,
love an adverb. Ugh, sometimes it's the perfect word, and in order to avoid an adverb, you need to use 10 words.
yeah. I
I don't know.
think that was also something that maybe drew me to the way you expressed character and all of the compliments I gave you before was that the voice felt truthful to me. Um, and so I think it did feel more like speech in the way that she was thinking. I loved that. I really like that. Flaubert did it well, didn't didn't he, with Madame Bovary and Jane Austen? But people underuse that the kind of third person where you can be very intimate and you can allow their thoughts to infect, I say, the narrative. And I felt like there was dialogue there between in the the narrative and then the thoughts. They kind of moved seamlessly in your piece. Do you have
Hmm.
any recurrent obsessions in your writing, things that you come back to again and again, or are you the kind of writer who you're like, I've done that and now I'm on to the next challenge?
There probably are a lot of recurrent themes in my writing. I don't know if I could pinpoint them. Okay, so your theme that you chose beneath the words, I found really inspiring. Like I immediately thought of like contracts someone would sign where like what underlines the agreement is something sinister. Like I actually submitted two stories to this month because I had so many ideas. Like I had this one and then I wrote a new one, and they both have to do with someone desperate agreeing to something they think is going to improve their life. Like people who play the lottery, who have their hopes dashed, and then someone uh, with power just uses it to wreck them. I found that to be a very interesting thing to explore. Like having a character who you can feel injustice on their behalf. I think
Mm.
it's a really easy way to like have a twist and also make the reader like your character. My characters are always very like irreverent and sarcastic. Like it made me laugh to see that you mentioned Fleabag in the judges' comments. Like I
Yeah, well,
love
that's
that show.
how, she's lovely, by the way. Phoebe Waller-Bridge is loads of fun. As a
She's kind of
person.
genius with that, yeah.
Yeah, it felt, but you know what? That's Fleabag was a huge commercial success, partly because she just let the voice rip, whatever that is, right? And that's what I felt you did really successfully. That's what I meant about personhood being established. I'm very glad that you found it, that the prompt inspiring. Um, how much of yourself goes into your characters? That's such an annoying question, I know, because like, I'm excited to hear your answer, but I feel like there's always an element of where you're at in life, if not yourself in there. So, obviously this was in, a totally different world, possibly inspired by current events, but a totally different world.
Hmm.
What parts of yourself did you gift in
And
the creation?
do you have a Janae and a Calyx in your life?
I'd love a number. Don't worry about my marriage or anything. He just sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, okay, so where did the characters come from? Um, I don't know. I think my main characters are all me, just a little bit. Like I said, they're very sarcastic, they're irreverent, that voice. One of my favorite authors is Otessa Moshfegh. I don't know if you
Love
know
that.
her. My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I've read that book like three times in two languages. I love it. I love someone, a character who doesn't care, who is just totally detached from their circumstances, who is just letting things crumble around them. And they have other characters who are like yelling at them to get their life together, like that kind of thing. Just,
I mean,
yeah. So my characters tend to be like that.
how many coffees does she have? That was my obsession with that book, was like she was just burning herself out with like adrenal fatigue
Coffee
from
alone. Yeah.
coffees from the bodega. Yeah, I can see now you said Otessa Mossveg, I can really see that. Um, and so you respond to that irreverent, sarcastic, identity. What do you do when you need to write a character, and it doesn't have to be the main one, it's just another character who is nothing like you? How do you start getting into them? How do you
Hmm. I,
change
d-
yourself?
I do tend to put like a foil to my irreverent main character. Like I have a best friend usually who's like a very moral archetype who the main character can just foolishly ignore because most of my stories have unhappy endings.
Mm,
Um, I think that's just a good dynamic to have, make the main character the more flawed person, and have their best friend be like a mirror they
mm,
can continually reference and ask questions to. It's kind of like I'm writing a book currently, and that's exactly the dynamic. My main character uh, is like constantly in conflict with this like perfect other character, you know, who's a wonderful person, but he's constantly criticizing, and the reader can pick up on how flawed she is from how she criticizes people who are perfectly nice.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing is when you write with, I always am encouraging people to write with bias and then almost reverse analyze their bias to see what does it offer. Because when you have a narrator with a strong sense of opinion, that is when you learn more than they don't have to tell you. That's how you show, right? Isn't it? Is through
Hmm.
is
Yeah, don't
have
be preachy is I hate reading preachy writing where the writer just like beats you over the head with the moral of the story. Like screw the moral of the story.
surely stories are about transformation, and sometimes you can have a character who really does undergo a mental transformation where their bias is altered, and I love that.
Yeah.
It's
And the reader
about
can pick up on things, even if the character doesn't really learn everything. Like the reader benefits from that. The character doesn't need to be the good guy in the end for the reader to have a cathartic experience.
no, exactly. It's almost like sometimes I say you've got the what the characters are thinking, what they're feeling in their heart, and what they don't know yet, and that is in their tummy, just resentment for no reason about perfect people. They don't quite know why they
Mhm.
hate, just do. That's really
Yeah.
interesting. I suppose my last question is, as I've asked for the worst piece of advice, I should ask you, what's the best piece of advice that you've received about writing, and maybe think about that in terms of speaking to the people who are watching this, who are like pursuing their craft around a job. Like, what is going to really feed their inspiration or help them uh, reconsider like the role that writing plays in their life, so they can keep doing that and keep chasing this mastery. It's a bit like yoga, but for the brain, right? How do we keep going with it?
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, I'll say again, community and feedback. Most important thing. Don't be precious. Don't be in a bubble. Um, find a community, just anybody, to read something and tell you what they liked or didn't like about it. And even when your story loses, just move on from it quickly. Like I'm lucky I kind of have a natural like on to the next attitude, but I can see how rejections into your inbox just pile up and just make you think, oh, I should just give up. But you got to do it. You got to love writing and you got to love reading. That's the other thing is read. I know so many people who write who don't make time to read other people's writing. And I think that's like the best education you can get for
Absolutely.
the written word. Like
Absolutely.
my favorite writer is Haruki Murakami.
Mm.
And I finally realized why I like his writing from doing all these contests and all this editing. Like I realized the craft level that I appreciate in him. It's the way he uses metaphor. Like you'll turn a page in a Murakami book and there'll be a page with like three or four interesting, unexpected metaphors. Like something you don't even know how he could come up with it, and yet it's so relatable. So yeah, reading will like open your eyes to what can be done with the written word.
And actually, I would expand that out to all stories. Sometimes when I'm in the thick of a project, I can't really watch or engage or read with things that feel too similar because I almost spook myself. But that doesn't mean you can't read around the topic, right? Or look for formal ways and things. Rejection is a big.
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you something that it sounds like you don't need it, but maybe you can share it with your community. Have a failure quota. How many no's can I get this month is a good one. How many? Because sometimes it is a numbers game. And sometimes I say I eat rejection for breakfast. And that is the nicest. Have I had 50 no's? Great. I've met my quota. That's the only way to get better.
Yeah, I've heard like Stephen King, he had a spike above his bed, and he would just spike the paper rejections onto the spike until he could fit no more, and then he'd think success. So
Yes,
that is
that
the attitude you have to have.
makes it a game. I've stolen another thing which I've used with people too, which is when you hit that quota, you've got to make it funny. So you've got to squeak like a rubber duck and be like, "Yeah, got it," because you need to keep that joy going. But you've said, it sounds like you've been really applying yourself, and it really showed in this winning piece. I loved it, and just well done you once again.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm really excited to see what you write in the future, which leads into one of my questions is if I could send you into the future or just in general, what do you hope to get from writing? How much does writing factor into your career aspirations, I guess? I was going to say current conditions, but if this is the first time you've gotten paid publication, you've won an award, now it's starting to factor in. Hopefully it factors in more. What's your ideal goal for the next 3, 5, 10 years with writing? Do you want to be a novelist or do you want to just keep it as a hobby on the side of your regular slow traveling job?
Yeah, I would love to publish a novel. Like I said, I've had one cooking for 6 years. It's still medium rare at this point. I told myself I was never going to be one of those people working on a novel for 10 years, and now here we are. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think it's plausible. I think once I have some success, like if I get one out, I will ramp up my motivation. Like I'm very deadline and success motivated. Um, yeah, so I would love to continually publish books, even if they don't do that well, as long as there's someone out there who wants to read it, that's fine by me. I'm like a freelance editor now, so I have a really flexible schedule. I would love to just continue doing this and writing for pleasure on the side and entering contests. I don't have a huge like, oh, I'm going to be a I'm going to be Victoria Schwab, even though I envy her career, so much. She writes the Darker Shades of Magic fantasy series, and she's cool. You should follow her on Instagram. You can really get a taste of what it's like to be a successful author with a recognizable style, and to be able to live between Europe, between France and Scotland. Yeah, I would love to just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't need to be famous.
Fantastic. Is your freelance editing, is that for fiction or
It's mostly academic stuff, um, but some fiction. Like edited line edited a few fantasy novels, and I've helped ghostwrite some like crime thriller movie to book adaptations. I have a cool client, so that's fun.
fantastic? Well, Melanie, I'm amazed at how many, we didn't talk about any of this before. I sent you a list of questions that, are the standard stock questions that you could ask. You didn't ask any of those. You asked all of your own. And I'm amazed at how they overlapped with my real list of questions that I don't end up, I never end up asking the stock questions either. But, and I'm sorry, Kelly, because I realized I sent you the list to prepare for the wrong stuff. But I think your answers were
It was
fantastic.
valuable, yeah.
You clearly know what you're talking about, how you're doing with this. So I know we're winding down now. I just have a couple more questions. Um, the main one is, would you say elegant literature has helped you in any way, and would you recommend it to other writers? It's our clip. We're going to clip a lot of this, to be honest. Melanie, you are very clearly a writing coach, and everything that you've said has been very
Mhm.
valuable, not just to us listening, but to any writers who have been watching this video. So I know, fantastic. But yeah, Kelly, if you could tell us if elegant literature has helped you, and if you'd recommend it to other people.
Yeah, so I I started submitting to Elegant Literature back in 2024, I think 3 or 4 times. And then my life just got so busy, so I stopped for a whole year. But I always, every month, check the theme without fail because they are really inspiring. And it was this one, Beneath the Words, that just it pulled me back in. I had to, subscribe again, which I'm very glad I did. I'll be sad that I can't continue submitting to Elegant Literature because all my writing friends are always having a fun time preparing what they're going to send, whether it's an old story from a different contest or something new. Like it's a great way to find a home, I think, for something you've written in the past that you've had time to workshop. And I love the broadness of the themes. You write this long essay about all the things, for example, that Beneath the Words could be, not just fantasy, but like it's a sci-fi lean, a drama relationship lean, even like a romance lean. Like it's almost like an exercise in creativity, just thinking, oh, how could I change this story to fit this prompt, or how could I develop something better to fit this interesting theme. Yeah, I find them very inspiring, basically. So I've always checked in. I'm glad I jumped back in March.
Well, we're certainly glad you did. It's a fantastic story. Thank you for saying. It's funny that you mentioned the essay of the different leanings because and exercise and creativity because that's exactly what it is for me. That's my creative outlet every month. Since I'm a bit busy with other things to do, kind of my own writing was always hobby anyway, and since starting Elegant Literature, it's always I just put that on the side and kind of tried to focus on how I can help other writers and do some other stuff. And so writing the prompts every month is really a big creative outlet for me. And I'm trying to make it an inspiration generator for the readers and for the writers to come up with their different angles. So thank you for saying that. That means a lot to me. And yeah, thank you very much. Melanie, thank you again very much for being the judge for this. It was fantastic. Excellent theme. Thank you for choosing that. Before we finish off here, can you tell us a little bit about what you're working on now? What's next for you? Where can people keep up with you? Obviously, anyone who's made it this far in the video understands that you know what you're talking about. They have a sense of your writing coach style, I think, with the way you handle yourself and you express yourself. It's been fantastic. So if you can tell us just where we can find more of you.
Yeah, okay. So in my Actually, I'm mostly focusing on my own artistic output at the moment because I have a TV show out, or I'm in development at the moment. And so I'm taking lots of meetings, and I just won a little cinema prize. So if people want to see where I'm taking my film, they can certainly follow me on Instagram, which is at underscore Melanie underscore Spencer underscore. But in terms of how I work with writers, I have an in-person community here in London, um, which is just a vibrant and wonderful, uplifting part of my life. We have loads of people in there from all different backgrounds, from 18 to 75. We've got a huge social aspect. It really is like just hanging out with your best friends. It's incredible. I also work with people online extensively. I work with people who are at the beginning, just looking for a creative outlet. So I have one client who's a mum of twins in UAE, and we do creative writing prompts, but she's now writing a Substack about being a twin mum. And then I also help people with their novels. So I have a few celebrity clients too who I coach. So really, my style is to always be about you and to push you forward. And it's a long-term commitment writing a novel. It's a long-term commitment to the self, being creative. And I am just always glad to support people on that journey back to themselves and what they were put on earth to do, which isn't always about the paid job. Sometimes it's about what you're here to say and express. Everyone I work with, if they aren't an established writer, they have a job. And I love supporting people to make their writing work around that commitment, be it family, whatever. So yeah, so you can find me at www.thelondonwritingcoach.co.uk.
Fantastic. And I hope everybody goes to look you up because it's been a pleasure working with you. It's been a pleasure listening to you on this interview. I said before we started this call that I wouldn't be able to help myself and I'd be chiming in. And I very, very deliberately helped myself to not chime in because you're doing such a fantastic job. And Kelly, your answers are so fantastic. I had nothing that I thought would make it better to add. So thank you very much, both of you, for making this call so fantastic. Kelly, congratulations! You are an award-winning author. You've won the award. Can't even say my own award name properly. You've won the Elegant Literature Award for New Writers. Congratulations once again.
Thanks so much. It really feels like I've leveled up. I'm really grateful to both of you guys and to the magazine you put out. It's full of great stories that I love to check out every month.
But I
Fantastic.
honestly thought your attitude, Kelly, that you've pursued mastery, you've taken advantage of everything that's available to you, and honestly, it was a great piece of writing. Well done.
Thank you.
Spot on. Definitely got a fan in me. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what you do next, and I'll be reading more of your stories as they come out, as I'm sure many people will be now after seeing these hearts of mine in the 54th issue of Elegant Literature Beneath the Words. So I'm sure you've got more fans than you know now, and could probably have more than that one true beta reader if you so
Oh,
show.
yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mom.
So thank you very
Oh,
much
she's the top.
to both of you, and congratulations, Kelly. Thank you, Melanie. And to anybody who watched full through this video, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you check out Elegant Literature. You can read all 54 magazine issues of the magazine for free. That's over 540 stories. So keep you busy for the weekend. And if you are new or emerging or the next generation of writers and you want to get your work published, send it in to us. We'd love to publish you and maybe even give you an award like Kelly. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.